ended up just sitting in the jacuzzi with these two random people. And I was like, can I tell you something? And they were like, what? And I was like, I've just become a best-selling author. And they were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And like, yeah, it was just the most surreal experience being in this little like island, sat in a jacuzzi with two strangers celebrating becoming a best-selling author. It was just very bizarre.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. A very interesting guest today who does all sorts of things, and we are also going to talk about his wife. He is the author of the book Human First Marketing, like Human First Marketing, I think I have to pronounce that right. And he's the CEO of Giraffe Social. I also will want to know why it's called Giraffe Social. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Phil Treagus-Evans.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's an honor to be here.
So what do we start with? I have a few notes, and I think the first thing that is always on top of every person's list at the moment is AI. Because everybody in the world is talking about AI, and is it going to replace me? Is AI going to replace marketing?
I hope not. And I'm trying very hard to make sure it doesn't. I'm not anti-AI. I do think AI has a place and is important. And I do think that we have to embrace it. I think, trying to resist it is probably futile. However, there are dangers with marketing in terms of it becoming homogenized and everything's starting to look and sound the same. And I think that's the risk. And that's really what the book is about, is that if we can put people at the front and at the center of our marketing strategies, that's the one thing that AI won't be able to replace is the people in your team, your customers, who you are, these things. So, yeah.
We're talking about emotional intelligence. It's the way people are, the way you deal with a client, not what you do really, and how much attention you pay somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also, if your customers see your marketing and they can sense that it's been AI generated, there's going to be a lack of trust, because they're going to think, well, why? What is the business legit? Who's working there? Whereas if people can see the team working in your company and see their faces and hear from them, and then I think that's how you form those connections that do build trust.
But, I have noticed one thing on social media is like you really don't know anymore when you look at something. Sometimes you really don't know anymore if this is real or not. It's some of those AI created whatever posts or whatever it is, they look so real.
Yeah. And I think that's the danger. And we are starting to see the social networks, especially, making you tag things as AI generated when they are. It's just to basically, in the same way that if an influencer puts an advert out, they have to tag it and say it's an ad so people know it's been paid for. I think the same is going to keep happening with AI, so that we have that level of transparency.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is, and what I've noticed is that so many people who write posts, I write a post every day about, spirituality or I don't know, life help or whatever. And I've been writing these for years, and I watch other people writing them, and suddenly, especially those whose mother tongue isn't English, suddenly their posts are perfect. And they are so delightful, and they sound so much different. And I mean, there it's very clear where it comes from.
Yeah, that's true. And I think I always say that with having ChatGPT, for example, write your social media posts, that there's nuance. And I think it's important that we don't look at someone using it for a post and say that's bad, or we say that's good. There's a spectrum in between. And I think if someone is going to ChatGPT and saying, write me a post about spirituality, and then they just copy and paste that, post it out onto social media, I would say that that's not ideal. However, if they're going there and saying, I'd like to do a post about this, and my thoughts on the topic are that I had this experience that was this, can you structure this into a post for me? I have less of an issue with that, because I sort of feel like, well, that's still them. There's still their story and their thoughts. So yeah, it's difficult. I think there's a lot of fear, isn't there, around AI, and I think rightfully so. We've never experienced anything like it.
Absolutely. So your book, Human First Marketing, is that in connection with AI? Is that why you're calling it Human First? Because you are you're human. You are not a machine.
Well, that's what you think.
You're not real, are you?
This whole thing's AI generated. No, so sort of. So obviously, I run a marketing agency, and what we were seeing was that the marketing strategies that we were deploying for brands that were people focused, whether that be influencer marketing or employee advocacy or founder led brands, and we do a lot of work with large companies and their executive teams and helping them with their LinkedIn, for example. We were seeing that anytime people are involved and people are front and center, we're getting better results. And the book was essentially my journey of figuring out why. Like, why is that? What's happening on a psychological, sociological sort of level that is making this stuff resonate and produce better results. So the book really was quite almost a selfish endeavor, because it was organizing all the chaos in my mind into something a little bit more structured. And so yeah, there is a whole section dedicated to AI and what I think about it and where I think it's going. But the book isn't in itself, it's not anti-AI.
Is it available on Amazon?
It is. It's available on Amazon as a paperback, hardback, and as a ebook, and an audiobook is also in the works.
So we will put the link in the show notes for somebody who is interested in buying the book, Human First Marketing. Now, the next thing that I have on my list is the CEO of Giraffe Social. Why is it called Giraffe Social?
So it's a good question. When we started Giraffe, which was 13 years ago, we really didn't plan it heavily. So we'd actually started, and when I say we, it's me and my co-founder Kane, we'd started another business, and that was our focus. And it was we wanted to launch our own social network. It was the sort of thing you could only really do as a naive 21-year-old with no money in the bank, no experience whatsoever. We thought that'd be a good idea. Let's do that. And whilst we were doing it, we thought, this social media marketing that we're doing for this brand is doing really well. So we thought, why not start a safer business, if you like? We had friends and family asking us to help them with their social media. So we sat down one afternoon and we looked around, and all of the social media agencies were incredibly dull and very boring. And we said, why don't we pick an animal? Why don't we pick an animal to brand around? So we sat there and went through the animal kingdom and sort of tried to figure out what made the most sense. And at the time, our service was all about helping businesses get more reach. And we thought, well, giraffes, long neck, more reach, kind of works. Quite like the color scheme. So we thought, yeah, why not? Let's go with giraffe. And yeah, now we're 13 years on, and it's that little split decision has sort of been quite defining.
You're right, though. They are tall and they can see everywhere and they can turn quite much. It's a good idea. Now, you said something that caught my attention. You said that, an inexperienced 21-year-old. But do you believe, or do you agree with me that whatever you do in those years, and most of us don't really know what they're doing, but it still helps us grow? We need to do these things. We need to make mistakes. We need to do things that we may look back and think they're silly, but they were necessary at the time.
100%. And I remember saying to Kane that I want to start businesses now, and I want to start them quickly, because if they fail, and realistically they will, I want to do that quickly. I want to learn quickly from failures. So yeah, it was a big, crazy idea, and we learned loads doing it. So yeah, that's always my advice for people, is start now and don't fear failing, because it's still learning for the next thing. And you don't always know what the next thing even is going to be. Like, we had no idea we were going to start a social media agency. It just sort of happened. And here we are over a decade later, still doing it,
Yeah. And I think everything you ever do in your life somehow helps at some point, even if you've been
Yeah,
I don't know if you've been a waiter or whatever, or work. I've done all sorts of
100%.
stuff in my life, and somehow it came to use
Yeah,
at some point. Now, one of the reasons why you are on my podcast, because it's most memorable journeys, we talk about travel as well, is that your wife is a destination wedding photographer, right?
that's correct. Yeah. So
So what
she's
does that mean? Explain that a little more. Because in my world, and I'm probably wrong, it is you go and get married somewhere and you find a photographer there. But that's
sure.
not always the case. Does she travel with people to get married?
Yes, she does. So my wife has always had a passion for photography, and she worked in a studio here in the UK for a while and ended up managing that. But she had a passion for weddings, and she wanted to photograph weddings. So just like what we just talked about, she just started. She just sort of, set up a Facebook page and started getting some interest in our services. And now she's a destination wedding photographer. And yeah, we travel the world. So, for example, a lot of her clients are actually from America. And they're getting married in places in Europe, for example, like in Italy, and they want an English speaking photographer, but it's cheaper to hire someone from the UK and have them fly to Italy than it is to hire someone from America to fly out, because obviously it's a much bigger distance. So yeah, we travel a lot for her work. I carry the bags and try and make myself helpful. We refer to me as her VP, which doesn't stand for vice president. It stands for vacation princess. And I test the warmth of the pool. I make sure the cocktails have got the right proportions of alcohol in them. I play an important role.
I think I would like that job too.
It's
Test the
great.
temperature of the pool and see if the cocktails have enough alcohol. That's my speciality too.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. I've married very well, and obviously, this was our plan. Though, we sat down 10 years ago in our first house we were renting, and we made a plan for our lives, and we decided that we wanted to be able to travel, and it was really important to both of us, and so we engineered a situation where we could. So my business is primarily remote, which means I can work from anywhere. And Leah's business takes us to all sorts of exotic locations, and I tag along and work and help her out. And yeah, it's worked out really well.
So I want to know a little bit about those destinations, and I want to know a little bit about what happens. Has anything ever happened that shouldn't have happened? Where do you go? What are the most exciting places that you've been
Mm.
with your wife, photographer wife, so far?
Yeah. So this year we've been to Kenya. We spent some time in Kenya. We've been to a couple of Caribbean islands. We're going to France in a few weeks, and we're going to Barbados at the end of the year. A lot of her weddings and stuff are in Italy and in France, but yeah, this year we've been to the Caribbean. I say we've been to the Caribbean a couple of times, and Kenya, I think, was maybe the most exotic place
Yeah, I
that
want to know
her
more
work's
about
taken place.
Kenya because I was in Kenya in April. What married in
Wow.
Kenya? Was it somebody local? I mean, you don't need to tell me the name. I don't.
So it was, I believe, someone from the UK, but their family were all from Kenya. So it was on Diani Beach, sort of near, obviously, Mombasa.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was amazing. We had a fantastic time.
Yeah, because I had been to Kenya once in 1989, the
Okay.
last time. So I went this time. I went on a safari, and I was so impressed with how organized and how yeah, really, really. I think we have this thing about going to a place and then we don't go for a long time, and we forget that time also moves on in this place. You think it's going to be the same when you come back 35 years later. And I was really impressed with I loved Kenya and how organized it is. And I can imagine that must have been a beautiful setting for a wedding on
Yeah.
the beach on Diani Beach.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we had that same feeling. It was the first time we'd ever been to Africa. And we were definitely sort of a little bit nervous about, well, where are we staying and how do we get to places? And, and we're quite seasoned travelers, but we say we've never been to Africa, and we were blown away. Like we fell in love with it, and we've talked about it so much since we've been back. So we actually went in February, March time, so not long before you were there. It's weird, and I actually did a lot of writing while I was in Kenya of the book, because obviously Leah was working, and I was sat in the bar on my laptop, and I did a lot of writing there, and I found it's weird how different places give you different sort of creative energy. And there was something about Kenya that I just couldn't stop writing. It was really, really flowing. And yeah, so when I think of certain chapters in the book, I'm taken to Kenya because I'm thinking, oh, that's why I wrote that there, the beach right next to us. And yeah, and just the most beautiful people, and just, yeah, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's the people. It draws you in somehow, and I think it has a lot to do with the people. And I think it's this misconception about Africa, and thinking that it's a wild place, or I don't know what we think before we go if
Yeah.
we haven't been. And it is just full of beautiful people who genuinely smile, who
Yeah.
actually mean it when they are friendly
Yeah.
and kind. So yeah, Africa has a big place in my heart as well.
Yeah, same. And as I say, we went from trepidation to just absolute admiration, just loving it. We just can't wait to go back.
Yeah. Now, I want to hear some funny stories. Do you have any about what happened at weddings?
Well, I mean, I don't go to the weddings. I'm there, there or thereabouts, but I'm not necessarily going to the weddings. But to be fair, there's no big stories because my wife's exceptionally talented and everything goes to plan, and goes very well. But I guess from my perspective, the the funny story recently was that the book was supposed to come out a couple of weeks before we were due to go on a trip to the Caribbean. We had a week in St. Martin and then a week in Anguilla. And I tried everything possible to get the book out before, because I thought I don't want to be stressing about it while we're away. And, I'm sure it'd be fine, but I don't know what the Wi-Fi connection is going to be like. But, it didn't happen. And in the end, I woke up at 2 a.m. in St. Martin because my network is entirely professional. So everyone was waking up here in the UK at 7, 8 o'clock, which in St. Martin was like 2, 3 in the morning. So I had to wake up at 2, 3 in the morning on launch day with my laptop and sit there messaging everyone and emailing everyone to tell them about the book. Spent the whole day doing that. And 5, 6 o'clock in the UK is around 2 p.m. in St. Martin. So I sort of finished for the day. And by the end of the first day, I'd achieved bestseller status on Amazon. So it was really, really surreal because Leah was off working. I was just sat in this hotel room like, oh, I'm a best-selling author now. Like, this is a dream I've had my whole life. And so I sort of just got my stuff and went down to the pool and just ended up just sitting in the jacuzzi with these two random people. And I was like, can I tell you something? And they were like, what? And I was like, I've just become a best-selling author. And they were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And like, yeah, it was just the most surreal experience being in this little like island, sat in a jacuzzi with two strangers celebrating becoming a best-selling author. It was just very bizarre.
That is very interesting, though. That is a very interesting observation that we need to share as humans.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I think that's why we need people around us and I think we also need, which is very important, we need people around us who are happy for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And I especially need that validation. I need someone to pat me on the back and say, well done, that was really good.
We all do. We all do. It's just some of us admit it easier than others, but I think we all do that. And I think one thing that I have noticed in my life is that we don't do that enough.
I agree.
We don't do enough. We don't tell people enough that they're wearing a nice dress or they're looking good today or something. We should do that so much more often because we all need it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think that there are certain cultures that do that better. The UK isn't great for that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Maybe it's cultures, but I think it's just a lot of envy as well. Instead
Maybe,
of being happy for other people, we are often
maybe.
envious.
But the two people in the jacuzzi, they were American, and the rest of the trip, every time I saw them in the hotel, they were going, "Superstar, like let's get your signature." Like, they were like massive fans, and it was lovely. It was really, really nice.
I think that's beautiful. I think, and
Yeah,
that's why we should be fans of each other,
yeah,
whatever. Now, back to marketing a little bit, because, of course, I want people to buy your book, but we also want some tips. So, if
sure.
you said that you and your wife decided that you wanted to create a life that you can both travel and still work. If
Yeah,
someone has this desire, whether it's a couple or somebody on their own, where do they start?
yeah, it's a good question. Hard to do this with a job. It depends. I mean, I suppose there are jobs that maybe lend itself. I mean, I was speaking to someone recently who's a videographer, and he said that his first job out of university was working for a travel agent, and they just sent him around the world. I was like, wow, that's a great first job to have. But I think my advice would be like plan it consciously. I think if you just hope that you're going to travel, or that you're going to create a dynamic where travel is, just going to happen, it's probably not just going to happen organically. I do think you kind of need to plan, and that was what we did. Was we sort of recognized that, okay, well, we need careers that we can do from anywhere, for starters, which for me, I'd already started my business. So, but at that point, we were in the office full time. So, it was sort of thinking, okay, well, at some point, this needs to become a remote working business. And for Leah, it was more about, she's doing photography, she loves to travel. Can we blend those two things together? And I think that's the key. I think when people find their passions, and they can sort of really live them, then people will pay money for that. I think if you build something where you are really truly tapping into your calling and your passion, it works out more often than not. I think for some people, it's just finding what that is. And I've never met anyone who is more perfectly aligned with what they do than my wife. She's exceptionally creative. She always likes to say that she loves love. So she loves going to weddings, and she cares about her couple so much. But she's creatively just exceptionally talented. So it's just the perfect blend for her. And I think that's the key, is finding the blend of your passions that will facilitate those travel opportunities.
Yeah, and I think that can be many different things. But as you said very, very clearly, it's not going to happen to you. It's not somebody is going to call you one day and say, "Hey, we like what you do. Would you like to do it traveling?" You have to plan it, and you have
Yeah.
to. And also, I mean, is it necessary to have a little savings? That's something to fall back on, or do you just go? I mean, for example, do you still have a home in the UK?
Yeah, yeah. We live in the UK.
You live in
Um,
the UK, so you're not a full-time digital
no,
nomad.
no. So I have offices in Portsmouth for the agency, and we live here, and you know we're here most of the year. I would say it's probably like a 70-30 sort of split. Um, but really, I think the most amazing thing is that we never know. Like, Leah can get an inquiry for somewhere next month we've never been, and suddenly we're going there next month. A lot of the places that we go to, they're not necessarily places that we've picked. They're just weddings that have come up, and Leah's booked it, and as a result, we're going. Would we have picked Kenya? I don't know. It probably wouldn't have been right at the top of our lists. But now we've been there. It's fantastic. And next year we're going to Dublin. We've never been to Dublin before, and a few other places as well. So yeah, I think it isn't just going to happen, like you say. I think you have to find those passions, and most things can be translated into a business that facilitates travel. It's just finding those little avenues.
Yeah, but what you're saying is, fine, but you still have to, no matter where she goes, you are in the position to be able to join her because of what you do, because you can do it
Yeah.
remotely.
Yeah, so that's maybe the advice: is don't do it yourself. Find someone very talented and marry them.
Very, very true. Very true. Now, coming back a little bit to marketing, if for somebody who has a small company and wants to do a little bit of market, what do you consider marketing today? That is a very big question. I know that I'm asking maybe something a bit silly, but somebody who doesn't have a big budget for marketing and maybe only can spend a small amount on outsourcing it, what would you spend it on?
The first thing I would say is don't outsource it.
Okay.
Which I
Do
know
it
is,
yourself.
I know that's
That's not advertising for your company, but no,
yes,
no.
maybe
But
a little bit
yes,
controversial. But I would say that from more of an entrepreneurial perspective, I see it a lot that too many people rush to hire an agency or to outsource their marketing. I'm a big believer that when you're starting out, you should try and do as much of your business yourself as you can, because if it's good to be a rounded entrepreneur, but also when you do outsource it, you'll understand what it is you're looking for, how to measure if someone's doing a good job or not. And, you've got to keep your costs down as well when you're a small business. But I think if someone was saying, that they wanted some guidance on what to do with their budget or their time, I would say that they need to build a community. And that comes down to finding your tribe, if you like, finding those people that really resonate with what it is you have to say and what it is you do. And then just above anything else, provide value. Don't go into marketing thinking, what can I get out of people? Get into what can I give? You're a perfect example, Elizabeth, with this podcast. You're providing value. Listeners enjoy listening to these conversations, and that's value that you're offering people. And I think that's often overlooked in marketing, and it's looked at from how can I get people to buy something? How can I get people to... That stuff can come more organically if you just put your energy into helping and providing value to people.
and also, does it also boil down to being interested in your clients, to knowing about your clients, to become, when you start off small, to become like find out personal stuff about your clients, because people like that, don't they?
100%. I think, especially as businesses grow, we begin to stop seeing our customers as people, and we start seeing them as data in a spreadsheet, or we're putting them in boxes of customer avatars that we market to. And there's nothing more powerful than picking up the phone and speaking to your customers and asking them, how did you find us? And what made you want to go with us instead of someone else? And was there any red flags? And there's nothing more powerful than having those conversations and understanding the emotions as well. Like what were they feeling when they decided to look for this product or service, and what was it they were trying to solve? And I think having those conversations on a regular basis is key to successful marketing.
Yeah, I think I noticed that, for example, in restaurant businesses, when you go and there's nobody there anymore who knows you, because what we like, or maybe it's just me, but I think it's other people as well. I like people to say hello to me and know me, and
Yeah.
I also like it when I go to a place 3, 4 times and then they know me. I think it's that connection that is lacking a little bit, and I think that's not going to get better with AI generally, and that's why I believe that human connections, emotional intelligence in that way is probably something that we really need to put emphasis on.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I actually say that in the book, that is there a better feeling in the world than walking into like a cafe and them saying, do you want your usual? Oh, just makes you feel warm inside. It's great. And we're losing that, and I think I talk about in the book that your grandparents, and that they would have known the name of like the people who worked in the local shop, and it was all localized, and they all knew each other, and they knew each other's lives and what they were doing. And I do feel like we almost need to go backwards to go forwards at the moment. I think we're losing the human element of marketing, and I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. And you're totally right. We like that. I like that. Do you
Mm,
want, or you, and even I go to a Starbucks here in Limassol and they know what I want because
perfect.
when it's the same people there and I love it, they get
Yeah.
a good tip.
Yeah, and you get to feel great. I mean, it's just,
Exactly.
everyone
I mean,
wins,
this is
right?
life, it's give
Yeah,
and take. And I think that's
exactly.
exactly how it should be. Now, apart from going to weddings or apart from working, traveling for work, do you travel private? Do you travel just as a couple sometimes?
We do, not as much as we'd like. I think when you travel for work as much as we do, it becomes difficult to find the time to do those things. But we do. We're both big fans of Italy. That's probably our favorite place to be. So I grew up going to Italy every summer for my sort of family holiday, and just outside of Florence. And as soon as Leah and I were together, I said, like, we've got to go to Italy. I've got to show you Florence, and we've got to go here, and we've just kept going ever since. And I actually proposed to Leah in Rome. So Rome's got a really special place in our hearts. We were there last year for a wedding, and funnily enough, the wedding was right next to these orange gardens, which is where I proposed, and we hadn't been back since. So it was a real sort of full circle moment to go back to the same spot. But yeah, Italy for us is almost like a second home. We just absolutely love it there.
So your family went to it. You went with your family to Italy. Did you
Yeah,
fly
so
or drive?
we used to drive.
Yeah, because
Uh,
lots of people from the UK used it. You probably drove through Switzerland. Because I'm from Switzerland.
oh
We-
yeah, we used to drive through Switzerland. In fact, Leah and I actually went to Switzerland not that long ago and stayed there for a while. But yeah, we used to. It was a 2-day trip, and we'd stay on a campsite, so we'd load the car up with everything that we needed, and then we would set off over to Dover and go on the Channel Tunnel, and yeah, drive through France, through Switzerland, and then down through Italy.
Yeah, there's something about Italy. I mean, I don't live there anymore, but when I did, it was so easy for us to just go for the weekend. It's a
I
three,
bet.
4 hours drive from Lucerne, and everybody loves. I don't think I've ever
Okay.
met anybody who doesn't like Italy. There's something
It's
about
just
it. I don't know what it is.
it's the perfect blend of culture and history and food and weather. It's just got all the best things, doesn't it? Like the food in Italy is just fantastic. There's so much art and history, and we've been to Florence over 10 times, and there's still loads of things in Florence. I'm like, we need to do that. Like, how have we not done that yet? And I just think you could explore it forever.
Yeah. Well, I have more or less ticked off everything off my list, but I want to know if you could just choose to go somewhere, anywhere, what would it be? What is your dream, apart from Italy, which is your where you go to? Is there a dream destination, a faraway destination? Not thinking that you wouldn't have to pay for it. Let's say you could just go wherever you
Huh?
would want
Are
to.
you paying for it? Is that the
No,
offer?
no, I'm not. But maybe
I was
somebody
going to
who is
say, this is
listening.
great.
You never know. Maybe somebody who is listening and who's saying, this guy is nice. Let's give him a flight to where? Where do you want to go?
Yeah, that would be lovely. So yeah, the place that we really want to go to that we've not been, and it's top of our bucket list, is Japan. We both love Japanese food. Again, loads of history. I've been to China, and Leah's been to India, but those are the only sort of places in Asia that we've got to. And yeah, Japan is top of our list. We're itching to get out there and see it and experience it.
Well, you need somebody who gets married in Japan.
Tell me about it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if there's somebody listening here who is going to get married in Japan and needs a wedding photographer, get in touch with Phil.
Yes. Or if you would just like to pay for me to go on holiday, also get in touch.
That's or with me. We could share.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Well, that's more or less all. We will put all the links in the show notes because if somebody wants your services as a marketeer or have a look at the book, it will be in the show notes. And I want to thank you very much for being on Most Memorable Journeys today, Phil Treagus-Evans. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.